In a previous video, I began examining some arguments offered by pre-tribulationist author Dr. Robert Gromacki of the Pretrib Research Center, where he attempts to demonstrate that it is more than likely that the church has been removed from the earth during Revelation chapters 4 through 19. The events of those chapters, he says, are inconsistent with the idea that the church is still on the earth. Although the church is not directly mentioned as being in heaven, Dr. Gromacki feels that it is represented there in a number of ways. Now, an argument that Gromacki gets into but doesn't spend a great deal of time on, but which I think is actually very, very important to the discussion, has to do with how dispensationalists, like typical pre-tribulationists, view the layout of the book of Revelation. Typically, they will argue that the events described from Revelation chapter 4 onward represent the future portion of the book. Prior to that, you've got John's introduction to the churches of Revelation, the churches of Asia Minor, and you've got some revelation that he brought them from Christ telling them various things are doing right, things are not doing right, all that sort of thing. And then John is said to get into the content of his vision, which is future. And for that reason, Gromacki and other pre-tribulationists will argue that we should view the events from Revelation 4 through 19 as having happened after the rapture. Quoting Dr. Gromacki here, the typical futurist interpretation of the book contends that chapters 4 through 19 describe what will take place in the 7 years preceding the second coming of Christ to the earth. Referencing Revelation 19, 11 through 21. Consistent advocates of premillennialism hold this position regardless of their particular view on the rapture of the church. Now again, this is a key aspect of dispensationalist, pre-tribulationist interpretations of the book of Revelation. And I believe that it is actually demonstrably false, no matter how popular and common it may be. And I'll get into a discussion of that, which I hope will be helpful to you. Consider first the opening of the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 2. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show to his bondservants the things which must soon take place. And he sent and communicated it by his angel to his bondservant John, who testified to the word of God and to the testimony of Jesus Christ, even to all that he saw. Now, the term revelation is translated from the Greek word apocalypsis. Vine's Expository Dictionary defines it as meaning, quote, an uncovering, unveiling, from kalypto, to hide, cover, denotes a revelation or appearing, or in English, apocalypse, unquote. Thus, the revelation of Jesus Christ could be either the revealing of Christ himself or something revealed by him. The latter is strongly indicated in Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 2, as we are told that the revelation is given to Christ by God, meaning the Father. This is a crucial point that is often overlooked in studies of the book of Revelation. The entire book is usually taken to be the revelation, when we're actually told in the first 2 verses that the revelation is something quite specific. It came from Jesus after being given to him by God the Father, and was then communicated to John. Note the progression here. The revelation was given by God the Father to Christ, who then communicated it to John, who went on to share it in the letter he wrote to the 7 churches. This transference is actually pictured in the book of Revelation, and it clearly shows us where the future events are uncovered or unveiled. In chapter 1, after introducing himself and the purpose of the book, John describes a vision he had of Jesus while being held in prison on the island of Patmos. It was during this vision that Jesus dictated the letters to the 7 churches, which comprise chapters 2 and 3 of the book. Then in chapter 4, the scene shifts. Quoting here, Revelation 4:1, after these things I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven, and the first voice which I had heard, like the sound of a trumpet speaking with me, said, come up here, and I will show you what must take place after these things. John then says that he was immediately in the Spirit. Now, I don't take this to mean that he experienced some kind of out-of-body event, but simply that he was caught up in a new vision after writing down the letters to the churches as he'd been instructed. Several times during the revelation, John is told to write what he has seen or been told. And on one occasion, he was about to write something down and was told not to. These things indicate to me that he was probably still physically on Patmos during the revelation. Now, the voice that speaks to John like a trumpet is the voice of Jesus Christ, who is identified by this description in chapter 1, verses 10 through 18. John then sees a throne and God the Father seated upon it, while angels, various living creatures, and 24 elders worship him. We see that in Revelation 4, verses 2 through 11. We then move into chapter 5, where John writes as follows in verses 1 through 3. I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a book written inside and on the back, sealed up with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, Who is worthy to open the book and break its seals? And no one in heaven or on the earth or under the earth was able to open the book or look into it. Here, John begins to weep because no one is able to open the book. But then one of the 24 elders tells him to stop weeping because the lion that is from the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has overcome so as to open the book and its 7 seals. Quoting Revelation 5, 6 through 7. And I saw between the throne with the 4 living creatures and the elders a lamb standing, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God, sent out into all the earth. And he came and took the book out of the right hand of him who sat on the throne. The Lamb, Christ, takes the book from the Father, after which the angels, creatures, and elders all fall down and worship both the Father and Christ. Christ then begins to open the book, quoting Revelation 6, 1 through 2. Then I saw when the Lamb broke one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying, as with the voice of thunder, Come and see. I looked, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. So let's summarize what we've seen here. The word revelation refers to unveiling or revealing something. The book begins by telling us that an unveiling is given to Christ by God the Father, to be shown to John and conferred to those to whom John should write. At the beginning of chapter 4, Christ tells John, Come up here. Why? Because I will show you what must take place after these things. We then see John's vision of heaven, a vision in which God the Father gives a book to Christ, who alone is able to open the book and view its contents. Christ then opens the book, unveiling or revealing its contents, and John is told to come and see. Thus, the future portion of Revelation, the unveiling or revealing, does not begin with chapter 4 when John is told to come up here. It begins with chapter 6 when Christ opens the book and unveils or reveals its heretofore hidden contents to John. Before this, nothing is unveiled or revealed. Chapters 4 and 5 depict the setting of the revelation and the ceremony that surrounded its giving, but they are not part of the revelation itself. The events of chapters 4 and 5 are not future. They occurred 2,000 years ago when John was given the revelation, and this fact is crucial to resolving misunderstandings that have arisen in regard to the book and its prophetic content, including where the identity of the 24 elders is concerned. And I may do a video on that subject in the future. Now, some here might object that the revelation begins by revealing what's going on in heaven prior to the beginning of the Great Tribulation. But I note that Christ specifically says that he will show John what will take place after these things, as he says. When John first sees the throne room, Christ is not even visible and does not speak to John at all at that time. It's only after no one who's found who is able to open the book that Christ appears. And at that point, it's only after Christ opens the book that John is told, come and see. So it is Christ, again, remember, who told John that he would show him what would take place, what was yet to come. And in the opening of the seals, we see that very thing depicted. The content of the book is the revelation. That is the book that Christ is holding. The content of that scroll is the revelation, not the scene in heaven that precedes its opening. Again, this is an absolutely crucial point. The future content of the book of Revelation does not begin in chapter 4. It begins in chapter 6. The revelation is specifically that book, that scroll that the Father gave to Jesus. And again, we see this foreshadowed at the very beginning of the book. John says the revelation given to Christ by God to be shown through John to the churches. And that's exactly what you see happen in Revelation chapter 4 and 5, getting into chapter 6, when Jesus opens the scroll and John begins to see what is going to happen in the future. That's the future portion of the book. So what's going on in 4 and 5 happened 2,000 years ago. It is not future. There is no raptured church in heaven at that time. And I think this, clearing this up, clarifies a whole lot of issues relate it to the rapture, when it takes place, and where the church is in the book of Revelation.